All right. Good morning. This is the July 22nd Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. We're going to do the Gary Sansing Public Forum. Please turn your cell phone to the vibrate, silence, or off setting. The Gary Sansing Public Forum is intended for matters not included on the agenda for the upcoming Board of County Commissioners meeting. Citizens wishing to address items on the agenda should sign up to speak to such items at the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the Gary Sansing Public Forum. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Our first two speakers, they have OLF 8 listed, Andrew Stewart and John Kellis. We do have that on the agenda. Are you wishing to talk about that, or is it something more in?
I'm not sure he heard your
All right.
full question.
So John, is it related to what's on the agenda with the scheduling of the zoning and stuff, or is it? Do you have other comments?
I'm sorry, but I'm not registering with my hearing.
When I checked in, sir, I was not told that the OLF 8 discussion was part of your agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
It's on the.
Scheduling.
We're scheduling the hearing to
You
over
talk
the.
about all the fate now?
Yes.
Okay, we got that scheduled on the agenda for the consent. So it's up to the, so typically, when items scheduled on the agenda, they don't talk about it right now. So, but it's on the BCC agenda.
It's only 3 minutes.
I understand that, but we're trying to get to the meeting. So, what's the nature of your topic? What's the nature of your comments regarding OLF 8?
The nature of it is regarding your planning for.
Okay, we'll take you in the
future
meeting
land
then.
use.
All right, we'll take you during the meeting. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Walter Gully.
We'll discuss at the meeting, during that time for the regular meeting, yes, sir, they'll talk about it. Yes, sir, you gotta wait, no, you gotta wait a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Horace.
I was a good usher.
Good morning to our distinguished Board of County Commissioners, more specifically to Commissioner Bender, the Chairman, Commissioner Burgash, Vice Chairman, Commissioners Underhill, May, and Berry in your respective districts. I am Walter Gully Jr. I'm here today with Ms. Anita Cromartie, who is in the audience, but we're here to represent C Forward LLC. And it's regarding a matter that occurred on June 7th of this year. And it had to do with a bidding on property. We won the bid. We were informed that we won the bid. And then later that afternoon, the same day, received a phone call from a Miss Emily Hoggs saying that regrettably they could not grant us the bid because there was some issue about a deputy taking paperwork to the wrong address or something along those lines. So us not really knowing whether or not it was a hoax or anything, we continued to follow through with the process. And the process required that we have the remainder of the money paid by the next morning. And we did so. We took the balance of $13,000 plus dollars, be exactly sure it was $13,153.40. We took that money down to the clerk's office for the payment of the full amount, and they refused to accept the check. So our issue is we did everything decent and in order as was required. Now, this property had been up on the clerk of the court's website since January. So there was no reason for you to tell me that in 30 days, when you actually had 6 months to get that process completed, and that we should be held responsible for that. So we begged the attention of the county commissioners this morning to get this problem resolved for us.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
I'm going to defer this to Heather because our general counsel has been working with the manager, and she has all the details. It'd be best that she explain.
Okay, so what actually happened was statutorily, if the property owner lives in the state of Florida, we have to have the sheriff's department in the county that they live in do a legal sheriff service.
Understood.
The property owner for that county lives in, I believe it was Melrose, Florida. We have a list of the cities in Florida and what county they lie in. That one on our list was in, I believe, Putnam County. So we sent this sheriff's service to Putnam County. Statutorily, we have to do it within, I believe it's 20 days of the date of the sale. We got a letter back mid-May from the Putnam County Sheriff that that city actually lies in 4 different counties, and the address was not in Putnam County. So due to the fact that it was not properly noticed by the sheriff, we did, it was our intention to pull it from the sale. It did not get pulled from the sale. We didn't realize this until after the sale had occurred. So we did contact the successful winning bidder and let them know that the sale had occurred in error, and we could not complete the sale and would have to make sure that the property owner was properly noticed according to statute before it could actually be sold.
And indeed, if that was the case, Ms. Hogg said that if there was going to be another bid, that we would have to bid with everyone else. And the truth of the matter would be, if in fact the property owner was going to be given an opportunity to pay the taxes, that's one thing. But we should not have to compete against anyone else. If it's just the property owner, and if they don't pay their tax by the stated date, then we should be awarded that property.
I don't know if we're going to make a resolution here today. You know, I think from what they're saying is that the auction should not have taken place, and that, you know, it would have to go back up to auction, but that's something for the clerk's office to handle.
He can work with us.
Yeah, it's the clerk's office.
At this
That would be a
point,
clerk's issue, Mr. Goff.
that's what I say. At this point, the commission is not involved in this. This is my lane, and you'll have to work with me, sir.
Oh, no problem. We did send you a letter, right?
Yeah, you can come talk to me personally. We'll sit
No,
down.
I haven't
we'll
spoken
call-
with you personally.
We'll walk through the statute. We'll let you know when it's going to be advertised, and we can follow the process there. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Curtis Howard?
Good morning. How are you? I'm back again. We haven't made any progress on the termination of Mike Lowry. I did speak with the interim administrator. Wasn't pleased with his position, understood his position. So I'm back again, and I'm going to take a little different approach. Approach this morning is we're going to have to start having a different conversation. No disrespect to the interim administrator, told me we're going to wait for the process. Well, the process was done wrong. The man, Mr. Lowry, was done wrong, was wrongfully terminated. So we're going to wait for a process. The county has had other employees, and their decision, the decision to reverse theirs was made. They're back to work, or their situation is resolved. Ours isn't. So I'm going to tell you that ATU as an organization is not supporting anything to do with ECAT until Mr. Lowry's back to work. We're not supporting your decision on the interim administrator's decision at all. And I believe the disrespect that we've seen in contract negotiations, going impasse, the communications from the legal staff, Ms. Christian Hall, who I believe, and I'm asking you, needs to be reprimanded herself, and just the unprofessionalism that I've encountered with her. The Ms. Ellis, who was part of the wrongful termination, she should be disciplined as well, and I know she's here in the room. Everybody wants somebody else to take accountability. Well, ATU is going to start holding everybody accountable. We're going to start speaking out, and no disrespect to you guys. I understand the position that you take. Professionally, we're going to take a position that's different than yours, because going to arbitration after you just reversed one of your decisions to say that, we wrongfully did this and we reversed our decision. Well, there's no discipline. There's nothing there. It was clear that Ms. Gilley made him a target and the union a target. It was clear. And everything suggests that. Even in negotiations, during negotiations, we had impasse to articles that they met with the commissioners on prior to. There was only 5 outstanding issues. Now, there's 30-something issues that they say we can't agree to. Well, you agreed to it already. So all of the politics and the bureaucracy is terrible in this county, terrible. And you guys are the decision makers. So I have to come to you and tell you now, we want those people reprimanded, we want negotiations back on track, and we want a fair and honest way of doing business. This has not been fair and honest in no way. And the ECAT workers deserve their increases in their in wages. They've been held out for just verbiage, not because of position, because of the county ended verbiage on this year, the same exact year, the very next year, they didn't want to do it. Ms. Gilley said, oh, I'm not doing that.
So Curtis, all due respect, one, your time's up, but two, all the union had to do was sign the MOU, and those employees would have gotten a 3% raise when everybody else did.
There's only one problem. Signing off on the MOU, the language had changed. It's not the same MOU we have been following year for year.
We're not going to get into that, but again, those, the employees could have gotten a 3% raise the day
and they would have gave up their rights. So if you're asking them as the county commissioners to give up their rights to get a 3% raise and nobody else did anything different in the county, I respectfully disagree, and I'll move forward to what the union has to do to take care of it.
All right,
Thank you for my time.
Commissioner Bender?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to comment that I'm attending the ECAT union agreements that are on track. There is one this Friday. I am appalled at how unprepared the union is when they come to the table. I'm appalled at their lies. I'm appalled at what they say about our administrator, both Ms. Gilley and Mr. Marino that has been there at the table. Kristen Huell has done an excellent job. When they take a break, they say they'll be back in 20 minutes, and they leave for the day, and nothing is done. We continue to try to schedule with them. I would just like to set the record straight of what happens in those union agreements, and it is appalling at the lies that are happening from this union representative and how we have stopped the raises to the bus drivers that could have happened through an MOU. I will be attending again on Friday. Thank you.
No, sir, you're not recognized.
I would like to.
No, sir, you're not recognized. You had your time to speak. You had your time to speak.
The clerk of the
No, sir,
court-
you were not recognized. Sir, you are not recognized. No, sir, you're not recognized. Please sit down, or the deputies will escort you out.
I don't mind being escorted out.
Okay, well then, here they are.
Well, I'm telling you, she's lying. She's untruthful.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
very much look forward to, first of all, I think for myself, I categorically do not accept the statements that were made from the dais. None of that. I mean, trying to read it into the record like that to make it a matter of public record is really fallacious. There's a process for this, and it doesn't involve any of that kind of drama. So while I'm certain that the union will continue, I mean, they certainly have the right to exercise their First Amendment rights. They have a right to exercise those rights in a dramatic and unproductive fashion if they choose. But when this is all, once we are done working through this process, then this board will also have the opportunity to put in front of the people that we represent the facts of these matters. So to the citizens who are wondering, well, what's he talking about? The fact that he's talking about it now is a violation of our process, because, you know, when the facts are on your side, you pound the facts. When the facts are not on your side, you pound the table. So I look forward to being able to talk with the citizens and you know, these accusations that we are Doing things different now for political reasons is absolutely insane. Our negotiations, these are our employees, and we take care of them. We now operate in a world where we are moving very rapidly toward $15 an hour minimum wage. So whatever you could have done, whatever we used to do in the past, simply cannot be done today, and it simply cannot be done tomorrow. So again, we'll all have the opportunity to talk, and those that are out pounding their chest first are probably the ones that realize that the facts are not on their side. Thank you.
Robert Roy?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And I think for the record, Allison, we are getting those increases in the budget for ECAT. Correct? That's on the table, I believe. Right, Wes?
I actually have a few
Excuse me.
packets for,
Yeah, sure, we're having a discussion, just hold on one second.
yes, sir.
As we enact the $11 hour pay plan and the 2% COLA, yes, they will be included in that
So they will
proposal.
get it.
Yes.
And also, Wes, there is a final date for the final arbitration for Mr. Lowry, I would assume.
September 20th?
And that would be it. That would be the final one.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right.
Hello, my name is Robert Roy. I'm a resident of 1805 John Carroll Drive. I'm here today to spread awareness about the evolving issues that have taken over Escambia County area transit. In my opinion, the safety of the community, including the cleaners, maintenance technicians, vehicle operators, and residents of Pensacola, are at risk because of the problems because of the problems. I had been employed with ECAT for 7 years before I decided to resign because of the outstanding issues that took over my place of work. I have witnessed multiple accounts of negligence pertaining to safety, particularly in the maintenance department. I have come here today to voice my concern with the safety of the passengers, pedestrians, and vehicle operators. The buses that are being used as transportation surely would not be approved by a rightful inspector. Sorry, gentlemen. There are multiple incidents of minimal braking ability, loose mirrors, shaking steering wheels, tripping hazards, failed lights, horns. All of these are examples. They have been brushed off by management in the past, and when I say brushed off, that's an understatement. The major issues would be ignored for weeks on end. The issues would eventually get fixed, but may have taken till the next inspection. Though the thought of a bus operating without fully functioning brakes for at least 3 days truly astonishes me. In my opinion, any major or even minor issue a bus has should immediately be removed and worked on to ensure the safety. Management has made this difficult. Cutting corners, making sure that the bus is able to run the next day should not be the behavior of the heads of a wide-scale business. ECAT should be classified as a public resource, but more worrisome about reputation and not transportation has made this somewhat impossible. Management is not utilizing their resources. This is a government-funded job. Do I think that they are using their resources to their advantage? No. No OEM manufacturer training, no, I do not. OEM manufacturing training should be offered to the technicians to make sure that they are ready to be put on the road. With 25 lives on the road, I'm sure you guys want people to be safe. The laziness and non-existent efforts of maintaining buses could result in non-reversible damages. Lawsuits could be attained and not only affect the county, but the workers employed under them. I have been concerned with public safety for a while now. The packets I will hand out to you are records of emails sent from me to someone in management. These emails are just samples of incidents that have happened with months of each other. I would like to have a public or a private meeting with some of you gentlemen if you are interested, because there are more issues other than just safety.
Sure. Wes,
Thank you.
Get this, okay. All right, thank you. Greg Thomas?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Greg Thomas. I live at 3957 Harbors Port. I want to start off by saying I drove a school bus in this county for 20 years. After 20 years of driving a school bus, I left to go to work with ECAT, where I started as a bus operator, then a route supervisor, then on to the operations manager. I recently applied for the operations manager again. My application was accepted from the county. I never heard anything. I applied a first time to come back as a bus operator. Nothing. The second time I applied as a bus operator, I was accepted. Again, number 3. I was interviewed. I was ranked number 1 to become a bus operator at Escambia County Area Transit. At that time, Miss Ellis quickly put a stop to my being rehired, saying that I was on a personal improvement plan. Yes, I was, as the operations manager. I was on that same personal improvement plan with Mr. Crittenden, which I passed with flying colors. I have a letter from him stating that I passed the same personal improvement plan that she put me on, verbatim to his. I was told that was not correct. She couldn't do that. I took it to the HR department. They informed me that she could. So she put a stop to that, saying I couldn't come back to ECAT because of a personal improvement plan. I find that very crazy. I have driven a school bus in this county since I was 18 years old. I have more service time for this county than probably half the people in this room. My personal improvement plan, I feel like, was completed. If I completed it by a man that worked for you, as well as in the transit industry for 40 some odd years, surely I can do one that was pretending to be the transit manager. During my time as ECAT manager, I was asked to go to an ethics hearing against Mr. Lowry. I'd like to retract that statement I made at that time, because after having to deal with Miss Ellis and her rude and condescending ways, I could see his frustration on that day. The ATU had handled the Martin Luther King parade every year since I was there. And all of a sudden she takes over and it's a whole new ball game. I think I should be, I don't need to be reinstated with the county anymore. Thank God, I do have another job in Santa Rosa. Not as good, and not in a county that I loved as much as Escambia County, but I did move. I think that ECAT can be brought back to where it was before, but not under her guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Lowry?
Good morning, Commissioners. I look forward to the next 2 days when we're in negotiations upstairs. It's important that we work towards solving problems. I'm sorry for what happened with Mr. Howard, but he's passionate about what's going on. He's one of the most passionate individuals that's supporting me. What I will say is, in negotiations, I have a book sitting right outside in my vehicle. It will tell the facts. It is from January of 2019 when we started these negotiations. I have every single document, every single proposal passed across the table. It will show the trend. If we go to impasse, you one day might see all of that. It is 2 books, both of them this thick, for that 3.5 years of negotiations. You'll see. That's all I got to say about that. What I really came here today to speak on is this. The operational unit, the blue-collar workers of the county, have also been in negotiations for a long time. It's been manipulated. The whole process has been manipulated. The last wage proposal we gave you across the table, I spoke 2 weeks ago on this, was in June of 2020. We got a proposal from your team. We responded to it. We accepted the majority of it. We gave a proposal back. It has been over a year, and we have not gotten a response to that proposal about wages. That's not negotiating. That is not communicating. We've had 3 sessions since June of 2020, and each time we brought it up, what's the deal? 35 to 40% of the workforce under your proposal would not get a raise. Well, we have to get with the department directors. Was I supposed to respond to that? We'll have to get back to you. You can go back. These meetings are recorded. And listen for yourselves, commissioners. I know the real reason right now why I have been sending requests for continued negotiations for the operational unit, and I know why, and you know why, and we don't have to tell the public, but we know why. You're not coming back to the table. It's been August 3rd will be 5 months. You have not responded to the union to come back to the table and to continue the negotiations for these hard-working employees that work through hurricanes and pandemics. If the strategy is we want to do what we got to do to get rid of the ATU, then maybe that's what you're trying to do. But that's not good for the employees. They deserve that raise. All of those good, hardworking, blue-collar workers that work in the public works, parks and recs, solid waste facilities, mosquito control, those are good people. And we should have been doing the right thing at the table and sitting across from each other and getting this done. We're down to a few little items on their contract. The union's ready to say we're done. We're ready for the last few articles. The only other question is, where's the raise? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, board, that concludes our speakers. Do you guys need a minute? Okay. If the board can just log into the iPads, I think the join meeting just came up. All right, everybody ready? All right. Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners meeting for July 22nd. It is 9:45 a.m. Please turn your cell phone to the vibrate, silence, or off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman to allow sufficient time for all speakers. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Upon completion of the public comment period, discussion is limited to board members and questions raised by the board. Commissioner Underhill, you do have the invocation, and Commissioner Berry, will you lead us in the pledge? Commissioner May, you want to lead us in the pledge after the invocation? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's invocation will be provided by Rick Rodriguez, student and Connect pastor with My Father's Vineyard. So, Pastor Rodriguez, thank you very much for blessing us with your presence today.
Commissioners, thank you so much for allowing me to be here this morning. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we love you today, and God, we thank you so much for loving us and for giving us this gift of life. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to serve. Father, today I pray that we will be driven by passion and also conviction. God, I pray that you will help us to listen to understand and not just listen to respond. Give us the spirit of service today. Help us to see the humanity and also the dignity of those that may disagree with us. And God, I pray that today that you will guide us to be the leaders that you have called us to be. May everything that is said and done bring glory and honor to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any items to be added to the agenda?
I'm not adding any, but please note that a tentative redistricting schedule was distributed to you all subsequent to the initial publication of the agenda. You should all have that. I also intend to drop 2 items from my agenda. Item 1-2 regarding the Perdido Estuaries lease is being dropped, and item 2-2, a discussion regarding the 401A program. These items are both being dropped from today's agenda, but I would expect that they may come at a future meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Berry?
So there was an add-on related to resurfacing, and it's on the dais. I don't know if that means it's added to the agenda or not because it was late yesterday. So that's kind of a question, I guess. I don't know if it's an add-on or not.
Commissioner, I believe it was added.
Okay. I don't know what the deadline is for publishing. I mean, it was.
It looks like it's item 32 for the
Okay,
resurfacing.
so if that's on the bottom of the item, does that mean it got added even if it was 3 o'clock yesterday?
Yes, sir, it
Okay.
does.
All right, good enough. All right, no, I don't have any then.
Okay. Commissioner May?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Underhill?
Nothing.
Commissioner Bergosh?
Nothing for me.
I do not have anything to add. Mr. Administrator?
I have nothing.
Okay.
Move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
All right. Please vote. And Doug, are you in? Okay. The agenda passes 5-0. Commissioners Forum, Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the fact we spent a lot of time together this week and we're running a little late this morning, I'll just save my comments for another time.
Thank you, Commissioner May.
I concur because I know I'll be pushed for time today.
Perfect.
Nothing for the good of the whole.
Nothing.
Okay. I was just going to recognize our birthday. That was last Saturday, and want to thank everybody that was involved in that. Thank everybody that came out, and the committee that helped, the commission that helped do that. So that was great to have Senator Scott, Secretary Lee, and Senator Broxson, both representatives, Andrade and Salzman, up there, and with Mayor Robinson, as also with Chief from the Porch Creek Indians, and so it was fascinating that we were able to celebrate 200 years of existence as Escambia County. All right, proclamations.
Move the item.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner May off the dais. And I do not believe we have anybody here to accept that, do we? Okay. Do we, zero. We're not doing, are we doing the recognition of service? No, okay. All right. Did the clerk's office receive proofs of publication?
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office has received all proofs except for the 9:01 a.m. public hearing. We have seen a cutout of the ad from Sunday's Pensacola News Journal, and we have been working with county staff to get the affidavit from the News Journal, but we do not currently have it.
I move that we waive the reading of the legal advertisement.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner May off the dais. With that, we have the 9:01 public hearing.
Do we have any speakers on the item?
We do not have any speakers.
Move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner May off the dais. Clerk and Comptroller's report.
Sure. I have two items on the consent report. The first one is recommendation concerning the acceptance of the TDT data May, which are returns in June. The detail is there for your reading, but I would also like to share that the July numbers right now are at 2.55 million, just for you to know that. The second is a recommendation concerning minutes and reports prepared by the clerk to the board's office. However, at this time, I would like to make a comment. Madam Attorney has dropped the ICMA from the report. I would like to share some updates with you, and that is the state has determined it is illegal to have a 401A for elected officials. They emailed me yesterday. All forms have been changed throughout the state of Florida, and I think that Madam Attorney probably needs to get with a few of you about those changes that have happened. And Commissioner Bender, if I could have a private conversation with you, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
On the TDT, is the last bullet point, a 4% comparison of May 2021 to May 2019 is a 26% increase with year-to-date collections being 16 higher. That's just comparing the 4 cent to the 4
That's what we were trying to do.
Perfect.
That's why
Okay.
the wording was expanded. I
Thank
thought
you,
it would be
ma'am.
more helpful.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Move the clerk's report.
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Horace.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Board members. For the Growth Management Report, we have the 915 GMR public hearing concerning small-scale 2020-2021-01. This item is, we're requesting for this item to be tabled.
To be tabled?
Yes, sir, to be
Okay.
tabled, yes.
Take a motion.
Motion to table or drop?
Yes, sir.
Just
To
table?
table.
Okay.
Table to, is that to a time certain or
We don't
time
have
to
a
be determined?
certain yet, but we know it's coming soon after something else gets adopted.
Okay, so Commissioner, your
Motion to
motion is drop?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Motion to drop, please vote. Motion to drop passes 5-0.
The next item for our action item is concerning a hold harmless agreement for a shoreline protections structure, I'm sorry.
We don't have any speakers.
Move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is an action item for a final plat, Schooners Landing.
Any speakers?
No, sir.
Move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Okay.
Yes, sir, and we do have our consent agenda for August the 5th.
We have speakers? on
Okay, we do have two speakers.
Yeah, can we, let's hear
All right,
from
John?
Yes, sir, it's your time.
Morning, John. Thank you for saving your comments for this time.
Okay, thank you. My name's John Kellis. I live in Nature Trail. I want to talk about the future land use, the OLF 8 hybrid plan versus the Cronley Park plan. We had years of back and forth dialogue regarding OLF 8, and you agreed to a compromise hybrid plan. Commissioner Bender facilitated it. It contained elements we weren't crazy about, but it also contained alternatives for sections of the land that were deemed Commerce Park. It afforded other uses should our awful nightmare of a giant Commerce Park across the street from us fail to materialize in given time periods. Now you want to change it using that COM designation for the overwhelming majority of future land use of the acreage. We were told that the hybrid plan was a compromise, and we should clearly understand that everyone doesn't get everything they want, but each of us gets some of what we want. You explained that was what a compromise is. No one gets it all their way.
That's right.
Well, back at you, commissioners. A deal is a deal. It's just not right to go hijacking what your board, the Beulah Coalition, and so many citizens worked hard to create. We got our little part of the compromise. We can still dream of having our own town center. We want to look forward to a future of improved quality of life, which, by the way, is part of the written intent of the county comprehensive plan. Saying that some future board might allow high-rise apartments and single-family homes to dominate the property is just a scare tactic, like pushing Granny off the cliff in her wheelchair. First of all, the Commerce acreage sections have different time frames before they could be considered for a different use. Secondly, trying to control a future board's decisions is wrong. They should be guided by the will of the people at that time. And lastly, if we allow OLF 8 to start out right, it will likely grow in a way that improves life, quality of life, improves quality of life like the intent of your plan. So stick to our hybrid plan compromise. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just have to correct a couple of things that the speaker says. Number one, and first and foremost, we did strike a compromise, and I'm living by the compromise. What we've done here is we've just ensured that the underlying future land use does not expose those areas that were designated to be part of the commercial part of the hybrid plan. It does not expose that to becoming high density, high impact residential. And by having the commercial as the future land use underneath what we compromised with DPZ and all the other entities that you've mentioned. This ensures that that doesn't happen. But actually, it doesn't 100% ensure it doesn't happen. It just makes it a little more difficult. And the folks that I represent out there, and I know that you live in Nature Trail right next door to where I live, but most of the folks that have spoken with me said they don't want any more residential. And furthermore, they hate the idea of 4-story, 60 unit per acre, high impact apartment complexes. They think we have enough. They think the roads are overtaxed, and I don't necessarily disagree. With that said, what this does in no way jeopardizes the zoning designations which will be put on top. We will have the town center, which we all compromised on. We will have commercial up front, which will be some amenities for the residents, restaurants, other sorts of shops, and also the area in the back for our jobs creation. So please understand, this does not in any way go back on the hybrid plan that this board worked diligently to come to with citizens groups. All it does is it protects that land from being turned into more and more high-density residential. That's all it does. We're going to have the town center, we're going to have the parks, we've got the public areas, and as a matter of fact, if you watch the very last meeting, the board, other members of this board also looked at that map with a tiny little strip of commercial and said, this isn't what the board wanted. And so I worked diligently with staff to make sure that every aspect of that deal would still be allowed with the underlying zoning designations, and that's all going to be there. So you don't need to worry about that. All this does is protect it from more high-density residential down the line where it shouldn't be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't see it that way.
Andrew Stewart?
Good morning. I'm Andrew Stewart. I'm a neighbor of John's, also live in Nature Trail. And Commissioner Burgosh, that what you just explained is a little more enlightening. My past history, the Army was very patient with me, and over a period of about 43 years, working as an active duty Army officer, and then another, included in that 43 years, I had about 27 years of work as a Department of the Army civilian, primarily in construction, maintenance of facilities, and integrated in that process was master planning. And when I first got here, I was very impressed with the PDZ's efforts and all the master planning that was being done. There's a detailed, extensive master plan. It's laid out. I understand that zoning and the land use, future land use are included in that, but I would ask that you give it's not clear to me what those percentages would be. I don't think it's clear to the neighbors that I have in Nature Trail, so that they feel that, and I don't think that many of the people said they want high-rise. We've got plenty of high-rise going up right now. That's not the intent. High-rise is residential. Is that, from my perspective, what you call zoning, in the Army, the way we do it, we have the industrial, we have the maintenance, we have the commissaries and the PXs and things of that nature, and then you have a family housing area built in, and then you have a training area. It's all designated as specific locations. And so I'm not tracking 100% that commercial is everything else other than residential. Is that the way commercial is set up, sir?
Can you stop his time so I can just answer his question? No, sir. So the underlying local zoning designations are going to be applied to that map. The future land use is something that we have to negotiate, and that's done at the local level. But the future land use is something that we have to negotiate with Tallahassee. And when I saw that it was primarily going to be mixed-use urban, although some of the commerce and some of the job creation would fit under that future land use, in my opinion, it was more appropriate to be under a commercial. And here's the reason why. We recently, in my district, had a piece of property that was zoned commercial. It was along a very busy road, and the folks that bought it wanted to build apartments, but none of the neighbors wanted it because they know what I know. It creates a big impact on the area. All the extra cars, the families, the traffic going in and out. And because of the fact it was zoned commercial, these people had to go through an extra process, and the residents were brought in and engaged. It triggered hearings, and it dictated that they work with Tallahassee, with the state, in order to get it done. And so that process Had the future land use been simply mixed-use urban and not commercial, they would have just done it locally, just like that. But because we had the commercial land use, it gave the residents more protection about what was going to be developed later. And so when I saw what was proposed on our OLF8 map, I thought to myself, the residents that I represent, and I live right across, right next door to you, I think they would like to know if some of that stuff is going to be switched from commercial over to additional residential on the field. So the underlying future land use, that is why I believe it's better to be commercial. And again, I just want to reiterate this for John and for you and folks that live in Nature Trail. None of that is going to in any way prevent us from doing the town center, the amenities, and all these other things. And just for your, I don't know how long you've lived out in Beulah. I've been out there almost 18 years. None of that stuff was ever even supposed to be a part of this thing. This has all just been a giant compromise, which this board has done. And every acre we've pulled away from job creation is another acre away from our original goal. So the compromise is intact. There will be some residential, although I never wanted it. It was part of the compromise. You know, we have to accept it. But this board has worked very diligently with the residents to try to come up with a plan where everyone gets a win. And I believe we've done that. This is nothing more than making it in the future a little more difficult to build extra high-density, high-impact residential, which most of the residents I represent are very happy because they want to be engaged. They don't want it to just happen locally. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
do you want to?
Then continuing on with that, the reading that I had prior in terms of percentages of property that would be used, set aside for specific uses, can you reiterate what those percentages are?
Sure, yes, sir. And I think we've got Drew Homer, we've got John Fisher. Rough numbers, I don't have it right in front of me, but, you know, primarily it's commerce, you know, in the northern part, and then on the side, you know, it's commerce, and then through the center is where we're going to have the town center, and then along the frontage on 9 Mile Road is where we'd have things like restaurants and shops. This board, we're going to recuperate our investment when we sell off those parcels to bring amenities for the residents. But the central part of this plan is where we're going to have the town center, the live-work residential, the community amenities, the parks, the green spaces, and things of that nature. And can you reiterate the exact acreage? But the hybrid plan, what this board voted on, none of those numbers have changed. We've got the acreage, and it's all there. Drew, could you read that off?
Sir.
You're holding this time.
So this is talking about the future land use change, okay? Mixed-use urban on 196 acres and commercial on 343.1. This is, this morning, this is just scheduling it for the hearing, and we can meet with you and go through everything with you.
Are you showing them
prior.
the flu map with the red and the yellow?
I'm showing them the.
No, I got, this is enough. This is enough for now. Now, we can sit and talk a little bit more
Yes, sir.
afterwards. But the other thing that interests me and intrigues me about this process is that, you know, the initial commercial thought process would be great if the I-10 interchange was open at Beulah Road.
It's coming.
Because that would allow you to have access off of the property with commercial, any commercial that you put in. Right now, if you start building, everything's going to dump down on 9 Mile Road.
I think, and with respect, and I think what
And I have no other comments.
No, but I think what you will see and what I've seen out in Beulah over the last 18 years, to get a good tenant in there that's going to bring jobs, it takes years and years to build. Navy Federal is a great example. It's taken 20 years for them to get where they're at and build their buildings. Whereas residential, the minute they get the zoning they want, within 4 months, they're putting up apartments, subdivisions. So the folks that are very concerned about the field turning into some kind of, you know, factory, number one, that's never going to happen. No smokestacks, no crushing machines, no foul odors, high-tech, clean tech jobs. That's number one. Number two, it's going to take years and years and years to build. So for a lot of the time, that back part of that field is going to be vacant till we find the right guys. But if we turn it loose residential, those apartments go up like that, believe me. And that's what people don't want. So I don't think you have to worry about that. And that interchange, just for everyone's edification, that's the number one priority for this board. That's the number one priority in the state. I mean, DOT, all hands on deck. That's coming. We're pushing, we're all pulling from the same side of the rope because that's probably the most important project in our county right now. So it's coming. And when the dirt is turning and that's being built, will coincide with when the majority of that northern half of the field gets built out. It's all been planned. It's all been part of the long-term strategy and vision.
Okay. And thank you for the opportunity to speak, Commissioners.
Sure, thank you. All right, that's the last of the speakers, but Jeff, I just have a couple questions real quick. So, and I'm trying to find it, I don't see it in the maps that we were given, and I'm trying to find.
Well, I
But,
don't think they've sent them to you yet, but.
I've had,
Requested it.
yeah, it was a little different though, that's why I'm saying I can't find it, but, I guess my question is why is areas that's all zoned Z1, so the area that we have as the, you know, what we think is the core, why is some of that commercial and some of it MUU? Because I think it devalues that some. And so I agree completely with you that you wanted to make the commercial flu over the Z4 for that, and also this front acreage. And I was good with that, and I think they've also added the is it 200 feet, 300?
200-foot buffer.
200-foot buffer zone. But my question is the area that's Z1, why can't all of that be MUU?
Well, because if you leave it that way with that MUU, it allows for unbridled, complete, 100% high-density, high-impact residential apartments. Whereas if you have a portion of it, you limit the amount of that you allow, and then it essentially dictates that anything else that's built residential has to be an ancillary component of 49% or less. The live-work lofts that we heard so much about from DPZ. You see, if you left it the way it was, anyone could go in there, buy it, boom, they're going to build it. And at that point, it only takes a local change of the zoning, of the local zoning. Whereas we do it this way, if they want to do that, they got to change it locally, they got to go to the planning board, go to Horace, but then they got to go to Tallahassee, and that's when the residents get brought in. And believe me, I lived through that process on Pine Forest Road.
No, I know, yeah.
Residents need to be involved in it.
But to me, this, again, I mean, I don't know exactly how many acres is in this Z1.
Well, we're going to bring the presentation. It's going to come, and we're going to have a full discussion. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
they can email it to you, and then, you know, we
Right,
can.
but that's what I'm saying is that if that's our intended use for this Z1 area, then why make someone jump through more hoops if that's the intended use?
Well, I think.
And I mean, to me, it makes it seem like it's gonna be harder to sell the property because they're gonna have to go through all those other steps when that's where we've told them where we want it, you know, and.
Well, I don't necessarily agree that that's what happened. I think you heard Commissioner Berry express some concern about the lack. See, when we got that before, it was a tiny little strip of red, which means if you want to build a restaurant or something like that, that was a very constrained area where you could do it. I think the thought process from the board, myself in particular, is we wanted the commercial businesses up front. We don't want 4-story apartment complexes being the first thing. Having it that way would have.
And I don't disagree. And, you know, from everyone I've talked to, says.
So I would suggest that you look at the map. Look-
Yeah, but I mean, that's why we put the buffer, that nobody wants to put residential right there on 9 Mile anyway.
Yeah.
But.
Oh, believe me, yes, they do. Believe me, they do.
Well.
Trust me.
But to say that 51% has to be commercial in these areas that we have a Z1.
With the underlying flu of commercial, yes. it would
Right,
have to.
but I agree that we want some commercial aspect to it. But why can't it just be like what's further to the west? Why that portion has to be?
Because that's the town center. That's where you're going to have the.
But I thought all of it's the town center. I mean, all of it's the.
A little further up it is, but that's where you're going to have the concentration, the super high concentration of residential, 60 units per acre. I mean, it's such a high concentration. Our existing codes don't even cover that. So that's where you're going to want that, and that's where it should be concentrated.
Well, that's the Z2 and the Z5, right?
Well,
I'm
we're
just
talking
about
different
the
things.
Z1.
I'm just talking about the future land use.
Right,
That's
I
what
know.
we're
I'm just talking about the Z1 areas, the brown in the zoning map here. Why they don't match up with the flu?
Because a part of that brown is going to allow for 60 units per acre, high density, high impact residential. The rest of it under the commercial flu will not permit that. That's why.
So
But
if
it will
that's what-
permit
if that's
every
what
other
you're trying to
commercial
achieve,
use.
then why not flip it? Because wouldn't you rather have I mean, I'm not saying I
look,
agree with it, but I'm saying like, if
we're
that's
talking
the
about
case, why not have more residential here and then have the more commercial further to the west?
Well,
as an actual center.
What you don't see on that map is all the areas that are currently wetlands where we can't do anything. That's a
Right,
majority
that's
of
that
it. Yeah.
CZ further to the left. I'm just the brown and the purple.
I think when you see the map, it's a lot less red than one of those two that you had up there, but it's where it makes sense. It's where it makes the most sense, and I think where it lines up with what.
Well, what I'm saying is that and I agree that the Z4 area, the finger needed to come down. I just think there needs to be the gap between the frontage and the other area.
Well, I just disagree. I disagree with you, man. We've got a fundamental disagreement. There will be plenty of mixed-use urban underlying flu with that Z1. Believe me, acres and acres, 20 acres or so, where they can build these gigantic monstrosity, high-density, high-residential apartments. That's plenty. But primarily, the rest of it should be the commercial and some of the mixed use, the lofts that they talked about. And if we do it the other way, I just see what's coming. I see what's coming, and it's going to be more high-density, high-impact residential that none of the people in Beulah want, frankly. So being very honest about it.
Can we write in that there is still some commercial aspect to it, that the bottom floor that has to be commercial?
That's where the 49-51% comes in, Robert.
Well, I know, but if you do one floor commercial and then 3 floors residential, or 2 floors residential, then.
And you don't meet that ratio.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't have an issue with 1 floor being commercial and 2 residential, or 3 residential.
Well, I think the appropriate time to have that discussion is after we schedule this, Robert, and maybe between now and then you get with Horace and have them show you.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, the Z2, the Z1 is 5 stories max. Well, that's, again, I'm trying to, because if we make too many changes later on, then we got to cancel the hearing and have another hearing.
Well, the critical thing is we haven't made enough. I was very careful with staff. I took direction from the majority of the board when we worked with this. We were very careful. What you're looking at there has not changed. The local zoning designation has not changed.
And you're right, it hasn't. And
so
everyone that's called me on that, I've said that the zoning hasn't changed. So we're strictly talking the flu. And again, I agreed that the commercial should come down under the Z4 area to give that extra protection. It was just this Z1 area, which I was questioning why that was included.
Yeah, and for the reasons I said, it's to protect it from the spread, the sprawl. People like to use on Escambia Hate Watch. They love to use the word sprawl. It's to prevent the sprawl of more high density, high impact residential. That's why.
Sure, Commissioner Underhill.
The item on the agenda is simply to schedule a meeting, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, move the item in the affirmative. If there are no other speakers.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. All right, County Administrator's report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, there are 10 items on the technical public service consent agenda. Need to hold CAR 1-2 for a speaker.
Okay.
Second.
Are there any other discussions on any of the other items? Okay.
So was that motion to move the balance?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
second stand.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0 for the balance.
Mr. Chairman, I may have a moment of privilege.
Yes, sir.
We just passed the scheduling of item number 7, the scheduling of a public hearing to amend the Inner Island MSBU, single largest MSBU that we've ever inflicted upon a group of citizens. I just want to take that opportunity I do hope the press will do all that they can to ensure maximum participation in that public hearing. And also just take the moment to thank you guys for been on this path for 5.5 years to get some resolution out there. A lot of, and quite frankly, nobody's happy. I despise it. But it is the only option that was really available for us that was legal, ethical, and moral. Throughout that, it was based upon the idea that the financial burden of Inner Island would not be borne by the taxpayers of Escambia County, but only by those that are benefiting from the MSBU. So I believe we've stayed true to that, and to my peers, I appreciate your continued support, even when it was quite contentious. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 2. Zachary Nicholson. And actually, hold on, I'm gonna, Board, do we want to hear any updates from Director Gilmore before we have the speakers come up, just to hear what's changed in the last 2 weeks? That might be able to, is that okay?
I'm okay with taking the speakers first. Obviously, Mr. Gilmore's staff input will be critical to the discussion.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 and 1/2 dozen the other,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, your call.
Yeah, Eric, I want to, come on up. I just want to hear what's.
Yes, sir, I do. So after doing some research, after you asked those questions, after pulling data, going back, there's going to be, I can't tell you there's never going to be a delay, period. There could be a delay from ShansCare, there could be a delay from Life Head on both sides. But getting the first call in place gives me a process in which we can refine and better implement which helos are coming in the timeframes, and that will give us something that we can tweak down. And talking to Air Methods this week and talking to ShansCare, we will be meeting quarterly to identify the problems and making sure we're streamlining the process. As I said, I've gone through the data. LifeFlight or Air Methods has not been dismissed any calls. They get called like they're supposed to, as the data shows right now. There's not a significant delay in Air Methods getting called from ShansCare on the first call. It does streamline our dispatch because it goes from dispatch to Shans, and then they call LifeFlight or Air Methods, which there's a little delay there. But if Air Methods can't take it, then we've got to go kick it to ShansCare. So versus our dispatch calling multiple locations, it goes to one location, they roll it out. If they can't accept, then it goes to the next one as quickly as possible. Understand that we have transport units on ground at the time. Our EMS system's there. We're not waiting for the helo to provide patient care. We're waiting for the helo to provide that transport. And while we want to get there as quick as possible, it's not the end-all be-all for patient care too. So after doing the research, I'm recommending that we go through with the first call. Having said that, we will quarterly analyze what is happening and make sure we are truly getting the best service and the best helicopter, the closest helicopter to the location of the call by meeting with both partners and making sure we're doing this together. It doesn't cost us anything to go into contract agreement. It is 1 year auto renewable, but we can cancel if we deem it's not beneficial for us. And we'll be scrutinizing that highly throughout the year. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Zachary Nicholson, 5647 65th Path, Live Oak, Florida. I'm the Regional Business Development Manager for ShansCare and represent North Florida and the Panhandle. First, I just want to say, thank you. We are very excited this last year and a half to be able to provide these services and send in the closest aircraft to Escambia County and citizens, and we look forward and continue to do that. So, just wanted to highlight a couple little things of, when our number's called, it goes to our in-state dispatch center in Gainesville, Florida, at UF Health Shands, the teaching hospital there. Those dispatchers, we got one is calling and checking with the other company as far as who's the closest, while the other is checking with the other 3 aircraft that we have in our assets. So it actually is streamlining and taking that workload off of Escambia County's dispatchers. And in a way, I view it, we're actually saving time. And that's where our citizens and everything benefits. Every second counts. It's a proven model of best practice. We're doing this across several counties across North Florida, including 2 of the major hospital systems right here in Pensacola. So these guys and gals, they're and if you've ever been inside a dispatch center, my hat's off to them, because what they have to go through, the training and dedication is very impressive. So, like I said, they do a very good job. Again, we're happy to continue this. We do believe in doing the right things, getting you the closest asset for the citizens of Escambia County. And I do appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further speakers? Yes, sir. Andy Donaldson.
Yes, sir. We're going to ask if Chris Strong can speak in lieu of me, and we speak after him. That's okay.
Are you, and you, Chris, or? Yes, sir. Okay. So then, Tony, so, sorry, you're waiving?
I'm waiving my time, yes.
In
Support, waiving in support?
You're waiving in support?
I'm waiving, I'm just, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, and then you're passing on your time then?
Passing on my time to Andy.
And then, Andy, you're passing on your time, or?
No, he'll be.
All right.
Hello again. I promised I would not see y'all again, but I guess I wasn't in the cards. My name is Andy Donaldson. I'm Chief Flight Nurse for Shands-Care here on the east side, which includes Shands-Care 5 and 6. 6 is the one that I think the focus has been on. They are in Milton. I want to give y'all a couple of things, if I may. I'm aware there's been suggestion, or there was last time, of the possibility of doing districts. I wanted to point out that districts are essentially how many nautical miles the scene is from the helicopter. So if we were to assign a district to a specific area with either any of the assets, that would be the wrong choice to make on behalf of the citizens. The way that we're doing it now, we simply dispatch by nautical miles. The other form that you see, and if you see MSAC 1, that's MidStar Air Care 1, and also 2, they are our Alabama partners. The other sheet that you have, that you'll also see that on, demonstrates the difference in the way that we dispatch and how it has been dispatched, and it goes by nautical miles and also the number. And it was referenced the event I brought up last time. So you can see where your second due unit is 7 nautical miles, 3.5 minutes. Jumps, I believe, down to 40 nautical miles. So that's all we're doing, and that we've been doing it for the past year and a half. I think we've been doing it well. Case in point, Eric didn't mention it, but I did have to intervene on Thursday. We had an incident, drowning. It was in the north end of the county, and I received a phone call from the communications chief asking, what's the delay? So I got on the phone to find out what that delay was. The delay was we were on hold with the other company, so I basically broke my own rule, and I went ahead and lifted my aircraft so somebody would be inbound. Eventually, they did come up and they did accept the call, but that's the type of time delays that we're looking to prevent. And as Zach was saying, with the way that we do that is if something happened, and with helicopters, anything can happen. They have chip lights, any number of things. If that were to occur to an Air Methods bird, then we're next up and we're ready to go. We already have the call, it's pending, and that's pretty much it, unless y'all have any questions for me at all about what I provided you. Good, sir?
No,
Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Fleming?
Hello again. My name is Tony Fleming, Air Methods Corporation, 55 Service Center Drive. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak on this critical issue for the patients we serve in Escambia County. Unfortunately, since the last meeting, we still have 2 concerns. One, how the proposed dispatch system is impacting patient care because of the delays in call handoff. And 2, that the terms of the proposed agreement is not at all how it's being portrayed to the local media and to commissioners, and how it will impact dispatch in the county if it is enacted in its current form. This agreement is not a dispatch agreement with Shands or the University of Florida. The contract is with MedTrans, which is also a private company that is a vendor of Shands Care. The agreement is not for dispatch at all. The agreement provides for MedTrans aircraft to be dispatched first and other aircraft only when suitable. This goes directly against how this is portrayed in the media as being a dispatch agreement that would require MedTrans to call the closest, most appropriate aircraft. The words closest, most appropriate aircraft are actually nowhere to be found in this contract. We are concerned about this because if this is enacted in present form, Baptist Life Flight legally doesn't have to be dispatched, even if we are the closest, most appropriate aircraft. That is a disservice to the citizens of this county who find themselves in a medical emergency. We are also concerned that this contract is not aimed at improving dispatch. It is not aimed at reducing dispatch times because the premise is that it would first dispatch the provider that is further away from most county residents than Baptist Life Flight, leaving all the discretion to another provider about whether or not to dispatch our aircraft and when that is appropriate. The worst part is patients will never know if they suffer a negative outcome due to a delay in dispatch according to what is legally allowable under the terms of this contract agreement as currently written. Think about being on the side of the highway with your child who needs to be flown. You've just been in a car accident and the ground ambulance and EMTs are with you, and you're being told that they are waiting on a helicopter. 5 more minutes go by, 10 more minutes go by, 20 minutes, and you're still waiting. Citizens won't necessarily know that they should inquire after the fact when all is said and done if this incident was appropriately dispatched or if a delay could be the reason their child may have faced a worse medical outcome or a tougher recovery. They shouldn't have to inquire on this. They should be able to trust the county that the closest, most appropriate aircraft is dispatched. This is why we at Baptist Life Flight are concerned about the long-term implications for emergency critical care in Escambia County as a result of this agreement. We want to speak up for the impact this can have because there is no transparency around it. In fact, we asked to see dispatch data from the county to understand the dispatch times before the calls were handed off to Baptist Life Flight. We were told, and it was stated in this meeting, that Baptist Life Flight is ultimately given 75% of the calls in Escambia County. We do not dispute that. Yet we are only shown dispatch data for 14 flights. Out of over 300 flights, we were given 14 to go off of. This is nowhere near adequate data on which to base this decision. Of these 14 flights, yes, several of them were 1 to 2 minutes. A few of them were longer, 5 to 6 minutes. One of them showed a 23-minute delay on February 18th before the call was given to Baptist Life Flight. Why? And how often is that really happening? Our ultimate goal, and please forgive me if you could give me a leeway on a minute or so, our ultimate goal is to get the closest appropriate aircraft. As we proposed to Eric Gilmore and Mr. Tercel, the CAD system that you currently have will send the closest, most appropriate aircraft. It can be loaded into the CAD. Yes, it is a process, but we could still go by a handshake process until Escambia County EMS gets that in place. You know, the previous administration, EMS administration, never brought up the Pensacola NAS shooting call to us and had any issues with it. We did do some research afterwards. The first aircraft on scene was Baptist Life Flight 5 minutes before the active shooter situation was given an all clear. The second closest aircraft, Shands Care 6. The third in Okaloosa Med Flight. It was done appropriately. We made sure 6 aircraft within 70 nautical miles were sent to that scene. So I'm sorry that you were given false information, but that's the truth. Is there anything that you have, any questions for me? Thank you for your time.
Chairman, Eric.
That was the last speaker.
Okay. So, I mean, I just want to get clarity in what the last speaker said. Is there any impact to citizens, and is there any adverse effect if they're a vendor of Shands or versus working with Shands? Or can you correlate all that for me?
So I can put fear in anybody and tell you it's going to be bad if we don't do this or we don't do that. Right. The bottom line is we're trying to get the right helicopter, the closest helicopter to the scene. I myself, as a district chief, I didn't want to go there because I just want to get what's right for the citizens. I've been on scene in the north end of this county waiting for Life Flight to come to the scene, 22 minutes. When I've got a helicopter in Atmore, Alabama, 4 minutes away. My crews now, since we've done first call, my north end crews have to hustle to get to the scene to get ready to land the bird because it's coming at a closer rate than Lifeline. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to do what's right. It's not about the money. It's not about who's getting the call. I care less who gets the call. What bird's coming. The time spent calling dispatchers and getting a helicopter spun out, they still have to do the weather checks. They still have to do their safety checks. They still have to do all their things that still delay liftoff time from the time of the roof to the time of the patient. At the end of the day, I just want the closest helicopter.
And in your opinion, and I mean, you work for the county, and that's your profession, and
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take your recommendation. But obviously, the number one priority is the public safety
That's right.
of citizens of Escambia County. And in your opinion, patient care would improve by having two vendors versus
Well,
one?
we've been doing it for a year and a half, and it's been working. It's been working very well, and we've been getting the closest helo to the site. So, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Gilmore.
Commissioner Underhill?
Thank you. Director Gilmore, Wendy and I just bought a farm up there, but just a few miles outside of Atmore.
That's right.
If I'm working on that farm and get injured,
You want the closest helo and the best care you can get.
I want a helo coming
right?
out of Atmore.
Yes, sir,
I
at Atmore.
don't want to wait for one to fly up from here.
Thank you.
So, it's personal for me because
Right.
it's there. I mean, I live in a more dense area of the community, and Perdido Key has always gotten extraordinarily good service.
Yes, sir.
But every square inch of this county deserves
Absolutely.
the most appropriate helicopter coming from the closest place.
Yes, sir.
We call that, what do you call that first 10 minutes after somebody gets injured, the first hour?
Well, you get the golden hour,
Yeah,
exactly.
you get
So
that golden hour.
You got to get there, right?
Yeah, and those 60 minutes that make up the golden hour pass so fast.
Right.
So, no, I don't understand. I've heard all the comments, but I'm struggling with why this would be opposed by any citizen. And
Yes,
I
sir.
can't find any reason why it would be opposed by a citizen, so as their representative, I'm very much an advocate for it.
Thanks, sir.
So Eric?
Thanks, sir.
On what we were giving out.
Yes.
Nautical mile distance, the two closest were at 7 nautical miles. So does this mean that, essentially you've,
Talk about the chart Andy gave you,
yes,
or this one right here?
yes.
Okay.
So, this could mean that whoever's responding first could be flipped because it had been one, but how many, what does that overlap look like where they're exactly 7 nautical miles or the same from the same site?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the closest one to get off the ground first. I mean, that's all we're concerned about. So they're both 7 nautical miles. They'll get to the closest one. As he said, they're doing both sides simultaneously. That way, if one it's a fail-safe, one goes down, then you can have the others backed up real time, not have to hang up the phone, make another call, get another bird, those type things.
All right. Board?
Move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Wes, I'm seeing one speaker on 27.
Yeah, hold 27 for a speaker, and I needed to drop car 2-14.
Hold 3 for separate vote.
All right. So we are holding 3 and 27, dropping 14.
Yes, sir.
Are there any others? Do we want to go through these or take the boards?
We're holding 3 and dropping 27?
We're holding 3, we're holding 27 for speaker.
We're dropping car 2-14, holding 3.
And holding 27?
Hold 1.
Second? Is it coming up? Yep, here we go.
Yep, sorry, hold on one second.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
and I don't know if Meredith or Claire, whoever's here that's on this.
Sorry, before I vote, I just want to make sure, is there any discussion on 12 regarding the fund balance policy? I'm not opposed to it. I'm just knowing that that's a topic of discussion that we had earlier in the week, and so I wanted to make sure that if we wanted to hold it, if not, if everyone's good with it, then we can go ahead and leave it in, so.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, we didn't make a whole lot of decisions yesterday about the budget stuff. It seems, pretty benign, but the fact is when the board sits down to, when the board sits down to have our public meetings in September, if we want to change the policy, we can change the policy at that time. I mean, the board can take up a policy anytime we want to change. So, it seems benign, but I figure, well, if it have.
September, I'll support it in September, Steve.
Um,
Dropping in September, you'll have my support.
So in other words, you're good with us voting for it today, and then we can change
I mean, I don't, it seems benign.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, we'll leave it.
do it.
All right, so
And
we're,
there have been things that over the years have seemed benign that then kind of reared their heads later as issues, and if that's the case, then I'm confident that the board will, I would hope at that time, the board might take up discussion with me, and maybe
Absolutely.
we'd relook at it. But
You can count on it.
all right, perfect.
You can count on
we
it.
can
So
leave it.
we're holding
We can
1,
leave it.
3, and 27 and dropping 14 then.
Yeah, we can leave it.
You've got a motion and a second, right?
Yep. Motion passes 5-0. I was holding that one up because I was looking for that. All right, item 1, Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I know on these affordable housing tax credits, Claire, Meredith, that they're coming. And I know that this has nothing to do with any developer at this point, just setting it. And, I would not hold this up. I read it yesterday for the first time, and, there are some things that I would have some concern, but I don't want to hold this up. But what I do not want for my district, don't bring any of these for all low income. And they've been voted down over and over again. So when they come with those tax credit projects, if it's not a mixed use project where they're going to have multiple levels, layered levels of income brackets, I just don't want the developer, because oftentimes the developers will go through the process and get to this point here to find that they've invested a lot of money, and that's just not the goal of what I want my district or our county to look like, all low income. I mean, if you go to Panama City, they are layered with low, moderate, and high income, and beautiful properties that don't become slums. And, quite frankly, some of the ones that I have, and I won't call their names, where there's no water in the pool, the gate doesn't work, and they start out beautiful and they end up as slums. And so I don't believe that you should be concentrating all low-income people into one geographical area. So just if we would just keep that in mind, Meredith. And I would get with you on just a few items that maybe we bring back that I need to see technically, can we add some language to the agreement? Go ahead, Meredith.
I just would say that the tax credits, the IRS dictates set-asides and the income levels. So if we're going to participate in that, we can't prescribe something that goes against the IRS prescriptions.
Yeah, but we don't have to have them all 120% or 80% of the median income. I mean, there is a little latitude in that.
They have, so the developer does have a choice to do, it's usually 40% of the units have to be at 60% area median income, or they can choose to do 20% of the units at 50% of the area median income. We could try to encourage the developers to do what they call an average income test that would let you spread out, where we could target some more moderate income.
Right, and that's all I'm saying, Meredith. I mean, it works all across the country, and unfortunately, some of these developers like to come, stabilize it, sell it off to equity investors who don't have any interest in the preservation of neighborhoods. And I think this board has been pretty consistent. I think that's probably one of the things Doug and I probably voted on in agreement.
Lockstep.
Lockstep since we both have been on this board, and that's just not concentrating all poor families and poor people in one area. So to me, the program gives opportunity for developers to be creative, maybe even not making as much profit as they want, but I just want to make sure we're incentivizing mixed income. I mean, to me, children, you know, in a single-family home, that a mom that's only making $8, $9 an hour, it's great that they see a young millennial getting up, going to work, and, you know, we just need to have that mixed use. Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Underhill?
Thank you. Just, yeah, bottom line, same thing, I don't ever want it to be that we miss an opportunity to telegraph to our future partners what success looks like. You know, the federal laws dictate what success looks like. I can tell you very clearly what failure looks like is corralling our poor in one place. And so just as often as we can get that on tape, I think that we are doing our developer class a great service by letting them know up front what would be a waste of their time. Thanks.
Meredith, I got an email about virtual community meetings.
Yes. So last year when we did these, we did provide for the because one of the requirements that y'all have asked is that the developer hold community meetings in the targeted area where they're proposing the development. We did drop a reference to make it be virtual, so I think that is not prohibited, but if y'all have any thoughts about if you are just completely opposed to letting a developer have their community outreach be virtual.
I'm not opposed to it. I think it could even encourage more community involvement. So I'd be in favor of allowing it if the rest of the board also agrees with that.
In this post-COVID, not even post-COVID, in this COVID world that we're about to engage in, I think that's reasonable. It makes sense to me.
I think if we wanted to look at it at some other future date, but I think now, there's still pockets of population that are not eligible for the vaccine.
Right.
And given various variants and things like that, so.
I got Mr. Gunther's email as well. I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I like it in person and, just making sure it's available. But like you said, I mean, it would, right now, I mean, we probably would be encouraging people to social distance and stay away. So it makes, I don't have a problem with that, Meredith, at all.
Okay.
Thank you for that direction.
Thank you so much.
I'll move the item, in the affirmative, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 3, Commissioner did you hold that one?
I held that one.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, based on the advice and counsel that we've all received, I think it would be imprudent at this time to vote in favor of this item. So I move that we vote against this item and leave it for a discussion at a future date.
Okay. Take a motion.
That was my motion.
Okay. Dies for lack of second.
Yeah, I mean, we need to discuss it, though. I mean, what, Eric?
Based on the fact that the information we all received was in a shade meeting, I mean, it makes it very hard to discuss it.
So, Madam Council, this can't be discussed right now.
I don't think, I mean, my understanding, Eric, is this for the interim?
Number 3 is for the University of Florida.
Okay.
For our medical direction for the future and our
Yeah,
training.
this is the long-term.
For the future?
Yes, sir.
This is the long-term agreement with the University of
With
Florida.
multiple doctors.
Yes,
Yeah, this is the one.
yes.
So why are we taking a long-term agreement? I thought we would.
I'm sorry, it's an annual agreement. It's not long-term. This is what's going to get us going for the future, down the road for EMS and training and medical direction.
So this won't be hiring a medical director.
This is exactly what this.
This is
But
what we
it's
talked about.
different than
This is
number
the contract.
4.
Yeah.
So item 4 is for your
Oh, that's it.
immediate interim
Yes.
services.
So what is this then?
This is for a longer-term change.
So a medical director that's running a jail and EMS is what this is?
No, sir. This
Not
is
the
going to be
jail.
medical director for public safety, City of Pensacola lifeguards,
And they also do all the training and have the
and we'll
training
have
plan?
University of Florida doing the
They're
training.
going to update the protocols as well,
Yes.
right? That haven't been updated in like
It'll
forever?
be Escambia County protocols. And
So we
We're
don't
actually
have a
gonna do it.
particular doctor, we're going into an agreement with,
under the contract agreement, Dr. Gordon will be our primary, and Dr. Alexandrov will be our co-medical director, so we'll have 2 medical directors. The reason we had to go with item number 4 with Dr. Abo is because we're in alerts right now, and we have to fill the gap with a medical director. So this, having 2 medical directors, or a co-medical director and a medical director, helps us out down the road, so we have clear, no break in medical direction.
I get that, Eric, and here's a little bit of a problem for me, and, we're going into 2023, and quite frankly, to me, because of, we have some real serious issues with our medical director. That has been an albatross for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes, sir.
There's not been a lot of discussion, and we're making a decision. I mean, obviously, I'd move forward. I'd be much more comfortable in, doing it a year and getting this under control. We just had a lot of conversation, and we've been gagged most of the time. And, for me, there at some point, it's going to have to be a conversation about the things that have happened.
You can bet there's going to be a conversation.
And to bring about those remedies. And so, I mean, we got to move forward. I know we got some issues that we'll still face, in coming days. I mean, I don't necessarily like, this 3-year right now with an additional 2-year period at 250 and
It's
3-year.
right.
I mean, for me, and
So-
this may very well be the best option. My problem is we've had so many problems administratively, and obviously we get all the blame for it, which we have a lot of responsibility, and quite frankly have never been able to exhibit any authority other than the repercussions of the backlash of lawsuits and press. And if this is the answer, and you're making that recommendation, I mean, I guess we'll have to accept it. I really don't feel comfortable going into a
So the contract can be stopped at any time with no penalties, just understand that, and it's concurrence with the party that we're engaging with, so. we're
And I
not-
like that, Eric, but here's the intent. If I go to 2023, but then I can stop it at any time.
I get that.
I mean, so if I
but
say, hey, let's do
I'm
it
just
a
trying
year.
to put, locked in type thing.
For me, I'd rather do it for a year. I mean, and this may be the medical
Well-
services or,
I'm trying to bring a solution that handles our training, gets us down the road, gets us our protocols. Escambia County protocol. We have protocols now. We do. They're
after about
Dr.
5
Landry's.
years and hundreds of
Or they're
thousands.
Dr. Landry's, but we want Escambia, and we have ImageTrend coming on board that we're going to start utilizing October 1st. And in ImageTrend, we have to upload our protocols and our rules to the medics and the EMTs in the field on how they should be interfacing. So it's a compressed time that we're trying to get everything consolidated and push which ImageTrend and the direction that we're trying to go with.
And the difference between this doctor and Dr. Benjamin will be responsible for what?
Dr. Benjamin he will cease once this is signed. Dr. Benjamin is now doing a gap stop to help us right now because we are without medical direction right now.
No, we're not.
I'm sorry. Huh?
No, we're not.
No. My bad. He's
So on
doing,
this next one,
Dr. Benjamin Abo is doing a gap stop for us.
So who's over
So
in
that we-
jail? Well, who's
so
the
that we do have
director
medical
over jail?
direction.
So that we do have medical
There you
direction.
go.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Who's the, so
Chief Powell has a contract doctor at the jail.
think it's Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith is taking
So
care.
number 4 is doing what for the interim with Dr.
He's,
Benjamin?
he's our gap stop right now.
So number 4, we're releasing him?
We would be releasing him if number 3 goes through. Yes, sir.
So why would we have number 4 on the?
He's been at it a little while. You're ratifying on number 4.
Yes.
Okay, and that's my only problem with the
I know.
confusion right now.
We're trying to clean
I mean,
things up and it's, I want to do it right.
I'm glad that you're trying to remedy it. I mean, I've asked for, public safety for the last couple of years. I've asked with no resolution.
Absolutely. We have Dr. Abo till July 31st to make the transition and if we go forward with the UF contract, so.
Eric, let's talk about training. I mean, What's
So-
the training schedule look like when we bring them on board?
We bring UF in, they sit down with us, they look at the gap, they do a gap analysis of where we are. Now, understand our people are certified and trained, but there's always improvements to build upon. So they'll give us a gap stop analysis. While they're doing this, they're looking at what protocols we should be doing, building our protocols out simultaneously. Once we identify what gaps we have, they come back, they fill the gaps with the training, make sure that we're all at one baseline, and then from there, we advanced our system going forward. So I'm looking upon building upon a baseline, or advancing our EMS system down the road, that nobody would have any recourse in calling our 911 system because we have the best trained. On top of it, it's we've had 5 paramedics apply for us recently. That's the highest number we've had in a while. We've had EMTs, a lot of EMTs, but paramedics is what we need. We've had 5 paramedics, and it was kind of on the thought of that we were going to do this with UF, so it's a selling point for a paramedic as well. You come into an organization where you've got a university backing and you're getting training from that university, that's prestigious for a paramedic. You want to work for somebody like that.
Is this put us on the path to become the department that we once were?
That Chief Torcell and myself want to bring us to, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I'm ready to make a
Lots of lights, but I'll start with Commissioner Berry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm comfortable, based on conversations I've had over the last, over the last few days, I'm comfortable moving forward with this.
Okay.
I am as well.
Commissioner May, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, Eric, again, I'll take your recommendation, and that's fine, Commissioner Berry. I mean, I want to get this right in public safety and EMS, and I trust that Eric's going to do it. I mean, if you guys are saying, 3 years is where you want to go.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not as comfortable as I would be with 1 year, but.
It's a 90-day out clause.
Yes.
But if that's where y'all want to go, I mean,
All right.
I won't be your opposition.
Commissioner Underhill?
Yeah, we've got a motion, I think it's about to die for lack of a second.
Correct.
Okay. It already did.
Yep.
All right, I move the item in the affirmative. That's
So-
my motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Madam Attorney, do you have something to add?
No.
Okay. Please vote. Item 3 passes 4-1 with Commissioner Underhill in dissent. Item 27, Sonia?
Was that cost neutral, Mr. Administrator? Are we basically, this 250, is this in line with what we were paying previously?
You talking about
Yeah, for the medical director and the training, or, I don't know, maybe Eric comes back and answers. I mean, was this more or less? Do you know the price, Wes?
I have to verify that, Commissioner.
All right, okay.
Eric, you still out there?
It's already voted on, but anyway, I'd like to know that, Wes. That's fine.
Eric, did you hear the question on cost neutral? On what we just approved?
It'd be a little additional cost on the EMS's side, because EMS and the jail combine one position for medical director, so it'll be a little bit additional cost. But
About how much?
Tamika, do you remember what it is? Sorry, I call you up here.
But there's also difference in services as well.
Well, there is different.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the
services.
comparative analysis. I
So
mean,
we're not doing fringe and benefits for these guys. We don't do the training we don't pay for their training. They handle all that expense on themselves. So their CEUs or CMUs, medical units, they pay for those.
So it's pretty much cost neutral in your opinion?
For the most part, yes, sir.
So we just went up on.
There might be a little delta where it's a little bit more for us, but it's not absorbent.
Okay.
And we went up in fees.
That's correct.
That should help offset that.
We've gone up in our fees for our collections, so that's helped out as well. So yes, sir.
But the added benefit far outweigh the
Far outweigh.
incremental cost.
Yeah, that's fine, thanks.
With a medical director and a co-medical director, if I had to pay for 2 outright, oh, absolutely.
Okay,
So,
that's the point I was just trying to make, that
Yes, sir.
this is a cost
absolutely. If I
savings
had to
for
pay
the
for 2 to
citizens.
cover the gaps that were occurring now, absolutely. So, yes,
Because
sir.
if you had one and we had to put a part-time person
Yes,
or
sir.
a
Then
contract person.
absolutely.
This here would save.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the point I'm trying to drive home, is this a cost saving to the citizens?
It would be a cost savings, yes, sir. When you add all that in, yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, Sonia. So this is concerning approval of expenses through the CARES Act funding program.
Yes, we had 2 items that we had discussed with Ms. Gilly prior to her departure about, and they're here before you. And I just wanted to, with all the discussions this week, just make sure that the budget we've submitted for the 23 fiscal year will remain intact, and we'll do this on a reimbursement basis to acquire these. And
Okay.
address any questions that you may have.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Board, that's the last speaker.
Move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. That concludes the county administrator's report, county attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's one action item remaining for you this morning. That is a final settlement that involves payment totally from excess in a permanent total disability case in workers' comp.
Okay. Take a motion.
Move the item in the affirmative.
I'll second it.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Two other discussion items.
Mr. Chairman, if I may take a moment, ask the attorney a question on Cat 2 and the reason it was dropped.
Yes.
Was this a catastrophic failure that caused it to be dropped, or is it
No, not at all.
Just didn't have everything together, wasn't ready for prime time?
I think maybe individual briefings with each commissioner before we have a public decision on it's probably the wisest course of action.
Okay.
But no, not catastrophic failure by any stretch.
I believe, and don't want to speak for
Plus-
my peer on that board, but I believe we've been working with the intent of trying to get the estuary program out from under the wing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other number two.
Yeah, no. Yes.
The lease on the, I'm sorry, the lease on the estuary program.
Actually,
And I'm sorry, I've just lost the bubble. I don't know.
I can speak to that.
That was awesome.
Yeah, in following our procedures, just hit a bump in the road. So it was not ready for today, which I had been pushing with as we had discussed. I've also put Donald in contact with Debbie so that staff that would normally be driving this process are driving it. And so if the current space that was selected doesn't work out, that we're going to have a second space or even a third space ready to go so that they can find a home as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure we were still tracking the intent with the estuary program.
Yes.
Is to
Yes,
get it
we
up
are.
on its
Yes,
own
yes, yes.
legs and out from under, the control of the county.
Yes, sir, it is.
As quickly as possible.
Yep.
Thanks.
With all the control of the county for them to get there.
Say out from under our control, actually appropriately controlled by all of its partner members.
Yes. Okay. So now discussion items.
Yes, so the first item, this is at the board's request following the previous board meeting public forum where Mr. Welcome appeared. I did not specifically reach out to him to let him know, actually, this was on the agenda, but I know he's come before you multiple times over the last couple of years. This was an information item on one of your agendas within the last few board meetings, but at this point, the board can certainly direct us. I would suggest A, B, or C, and frankly, at this point, I'm recommending C. This has been appealed. We have lost. My suggestion is cut this loose, let him go on his way. The only other two options would be to go back and attempt to re-foreclose from scratch, keeping the litigation alive here in circuit court, or dismiss the lawsuit but leave the lien in place, and you will probably be hearing from him again. So if you do that, that's B. My suggestion to you is C. I know this is a D2 property, so I can certainly
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
let Commissioner
Yes, sir.
Underhill run with it.
While I certainly believe that we were right, the judge has determined otherwise. I oftentimes tell citizens that they, I recommend that they seek redress of their government. Mr. Welcome has done that. He has been proven victorious in court. And so therefore, I am going to be moving item D, I recognize the support that the attorney has for item C. The problem is that.
No, I think we updated it. There's no longer a D. So C should be dismiss the lawsuit and proactively release the lien.
That is, okay, then yes, that is my position, because we have, Mr. Welcome has spent his time and energy to emerge victorious in a court, and he should be afforded the respect that comes with that.
Second.
Yeah, and I second, and they've been coming down for a long while. I know the Welcomes very, very well, and they've stayed persistent, and Madam Attorney, thank you.
And now he can mow the lawn.
He can mow the lawn and get rid of the rats on his lawn, but I do commend him for staying the course and doing what he did. So I will support that motion for Mr. and Mrs. Welcome.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 5-0 with item CAT 2-1, item C.
The final item, 2-3, this is a tentative schedule that's been distributed to you all. I see Ms. Daniel is still in the audience if you want to ask her any questions. We have been in contact with the school board, the clerk's office, and we tried to think of every possible participant we might need to schedule with, but if you have any input or concerns about the dates provided, certainly you can bring those to me or adopt this program.
Madam Attorney, again, I've expressed my concerns before, and obviously I appreciate you bringing this, and I will work diligently through the process. I want to reiterate my concern that we not rush based upon an artificial, self-imposed timeline. The statute does not say that we must do this in the first odd year after the census data. We've had COVID. We don't have our data yet. We're hoping to get it August, September. Anyway, the legislature has a different standard. They're going to have their session January, February, March of next year. Then they'll take the time necessary to complete their redistricting right after their election. And then they'll have a complete 2 years with the new lines. We don't have that luxury. So again, if we can do it in 3.5 months, essentially, oh, actually less than that if you take out Christmas and Thanksgiving, I'm going to work hard to do it. But remember, in Escambia County, we've got the civil rights era, Augustus, McMillan stuff. We've got to be very careful, particularly in Commissioner May's district. And, the citizens are going to want to be involved, but now we got the Delta variant, so is that going to limit the amount of public participation? And just remember, if we really push this thing and want to get it done this year, we're only imposing that on ourselves. It's an artificial imposition of a non-existent deadline. The only criteria that the statute puts out is from time to time we shall adjust our lines, and only in odd-numbered years. So, look, the majority of the board want to rush this through at the end. Hey, I'll work with you. But at the end of it, if I don't feel like we got it right, I ain't voting for it. I'm not going to do it for someone's political agenda. I'm not going to do it because it's some self-imposed, we got to do it. The most important thing that we've got to do is to do it right. Last time around, we got our data in February. I'm the only one here that was up on this dais working with the county at that time. I was a school board member, and we took 6.5 months because we had the public hearings, and we made sure that we maintained the spirit of those civil rights rulings, and we got it right. We weren't sued. The legislature, on the other hand, just about everything they touched got sued, lawsuits. Some of them didn't get resolved till 5 years later. So I just want to reiterate my concern. I'm willing to work, but I'm not going to rush because some people inaccurately are espousing that this is something we have to do in the first year. Statute doesn't say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, in response, I certainly want to be clear of District 3, and I'm very sensitive to minority majority districts, and I mean, I know that there are moves to create at-large seats and different groups have their own objectives and their recommendations, and that's great. I can tell you, Jeff, probably for not the reasons that you say, it's not District 3 because, it's not Lumen May's district, it's District 3 because it, quite frankly, affects everyone, and the Augusta Act is very important. And you're absolutely right. If the lines are not drawn right, we'll find ourselves in court for a long period of time. I would find myself, being very supportive of the Augusta Act and utilizing whatever resources I had to support that. I think it's premature today to set a schedule until we get the data back. We don't have the census information back. And so I'm not saying I want to push it off to the odd year. I'm saying that I can agree with you until we get the data and everything. I'm not going to support putting out a schedule until we get that. And if we get the data and we feel like in this meeting that we can set a schedule in which we could get it done, I don't like kicking the ball down the road, but once we get the data and it's not enough time, like you said, let's get it right. But I just think it's premature to make a decision.
But I'll support that motion if you make it, because I think it's a smart play.
And once we get the information back, then we'll make the final
So
decision.
Commissioner May, I think you were off the dais when we had the discussion, but the discussion was that if the data ends up not being released, then we can change it.
Right. No, I heard that
Just
part.
go ahead and go ahead and do it,
I-
which I support. I think we can go ahead and do it. I think that way you get the representation of the people based on what you have, so.
Right. Well, I heard that conversation. I was listening. I couldn't comment. I was out of town, Robert. So I don't think that there's any advantage of setting that date today. So, and I agree with Jeff on that. Once we get the data back, we can set a date and put it on the committee of the whole, have a discussion, and then get it going. I don't know what the purpose of setting a date today would serve in the benefit of citizens. So I don't think that causes any problem.
So, Mr. Chairman, it's just a discussion item. It doesn't require a vote.
Sure.
We have what's been proposed by the county attorney, and we can just take that under appraisal and see how the next few weeks play out.
Okay, I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
because we can still have it on the schedule for the 16th.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you, Commissioner Berry.
If you would have spoke earlier, because Mr. Berry, we could have saved 15 minutes of our life.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the whole? No, sir.